Burt Lancaster spent a great deal of time off-set with his good friend Kirk Douglas, whenever cameras weren't rolling. While the two certainly had a lot in common, their friendship wasn't without its problems. Since this was the mid-20th century, it wasn't uncommon for men back then to flaunt their masculinity by putting down people around them. On one occasion, when Burt was giving Kirk a hard time, he went a little too far. Keep watching to learn all about how Burt Lancaster once bullied Kirk Douglas to tears. Burt and Kirk had a complicated relationship. On August 5, 1953, the iconic, critically acclaimed film From Here to Eternity hit theaters. It starred Burt Lancaster alongside the chairman of the board himself, Frank Sinatra. A few years later, in 1957, Lancaster starred alongside the legendary Spartacus actor Kirk Douglas. While the two eventually became close friends, their working relationship was far from perfect. In fact, they were frequently reported to have gotten into bitter arguments on set, and apparently, the testiness of their relationship extended to their behind-the-scenes dealings as well. Throughout their respective careers, the duo crossed paths numerous times, but their friendship didn't really take off until later. In time, Lancaster's constant belittling and put-downs got to be too much for Douglas to handle. This culminated in a rather explosive interaction that took place at a fan event. Lancaster didn't feel like anything was off-limits. He wasn't apprehensive to use his intimate knowledge of Douglas against him if the moment felt right. According to a biography about Lancaster titled An American Life by author Kate Buford, the two film stars once attended an event which saw them standing in front of a large crowd of fans. Their bravado undoubtedly got the better of them as they began teasing each other for laughs. But Lancaster decided to dial up the intensity when he started taking very personal jabs at Douglas. He clearly crossed a line when he started teasing Kirk about his height. Douglas stood at about 5 feet 7 inches tall. Compared to Lancaster, who was 6'2", he looked significantly shorter. The final nail in the coffin was when Lancaster began telling the group of fans how Douglas used specifically designed lifts in his shoes to make him appear taller. This remark evidently hit a nerve for the actor. He reportedly burst into tears in front of the onlookers. He had been very sensitive about his height, so this was one wound he definitely didn't want poked at in front of an audience. It took him just moments to pull himself together and exit the event. Years later, the two movie stars became closer friends, but their incessant teasing never stopped. Lancaster used to introduce his old friend at Hollywood events, saying something along the lines of, "Kirk would be the first to admit he can be a difficult person, while I would be the second." Somehow, through all that public berating, Lancaster and Douglas managed to maintain a close friendship for many years. It endured even after Lancaster passed away. Burt was 94 when he died of a heart attack on October 20th, 1994. Not long after, Douglas referred to his death as the passing of a giant. In a 2017 interview, Douglas candidly discussed his friends from old Hollywood. When talking about Burt, he said he missed him a lot despite the fact they fought all the time. The two stars had a pretty great time with one another on the set of films. During production of Gunfight at the OK Corral, they once forced filming to be stopped due to uncontrollable laughing.
Let's talk about the sponsor for today's video, Aura. Aura is an all-in-one solution to protect you from identity theft online. It includes identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software, all wrapped up into one easy-to-use app. If you're not using every single one of these tools to protect yourself, you're going to have a weak spot. It's like making sure your front door is locked, but leaving your back door wide open for intruders. Aura continuously monitors the dark web for any of your personal information, and they'll send you an alert the moment they find anything. I was shocked to find out that several of my login credentials were found on the dark web, and I wouldn't have known this without Aura. If you're active online, it's nearly impossible to protect all of your personal information unless you're using a tool like Aura. This is exactly why there are so many victims of cybercrime and identity theft. In fact, identity theft is so common, there's a new victim every 14 seconds. That means at least 3 people have had their identity stolen since I started talking about Aura in this video. So if you want to protect yourself and your family from identity theft, go to aura.com/faxverse. By visiting this URL or clicking the link in the description, you can get a 14-day free trial of Aura and start getting protection today.
The FBI was obsessed with Burt Lancaster. While he's arguably best known for that steamy beach scene with Deborah Kerr in From Here to Oblivion, Burt Lancaster's prolific life story is one full of several unexpected twists and turns. He was born Burton Stephen Lancaster in New York City in 1913. At age 19, he joined the circus. His physical prowess later became one of his biggest hallmarks, along with his gift for projecting toughness and emotional vulnerability simultaneously. After serving in the Army during the Second World War, Lancaster became interested in acting. He'd felt inspired by the USO shows he had seen, and when he returned stateside, he made his Broadway debut in 1945. He was given his first breakthrough Hollywood role appearing in The Killers. While Burt had a special affinity for offbeat film roles, he was also particularly outspoken about his liberal political beliefs. In Kate Buford's biography, the author noted that Burt's leftist politics more than likely stemmed from his experiences in his younger years with the Union Settlement House, an organization that devoted its efforts to providing services for impoverished immigrants. In the 1940s, Burt spoke out against the House Un-American Activities Committee and the witch hunting and blacklisting they engaged in their efforts to curtail the spread of communism in the entertainment industry. According to publicly available records, the FBI began keeping tabs on Lancaster in 1963. But that didn't tell the full story because in reality, Lancaster had already been surveilled by the U.S. government for at least 15 years by that point. The reason they were keeping an eye on Lancaster likely had to do with his long-standing support for civil rights. According to an FBI memo from one of the Bureau's agents, Milton Jones, to Deputy Associate Director Cartha Deke DeLoach, which was declassified in 1996 but penned in 1963, Lancaster had signed a statement in 1947 put out by the National Council of the Arts, Sciences, and Professionals urging Congress to abolish the HUAC. That organization was already on the FBI's radar, seeing as how they considered them to be a communist front. So when Burt signed it, they basically saw it as an admission of him having communist ties. Lancaster reportedly also requested more than once to tour the FBI headquarters and meet the Bureau's director, J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover denied his request in 1957, citing his subversive association. Jones's memo alerting the Bureau of Lancaster's supposed communist ties was inspired by Lancaster's participation in a meeting in Beverly Hills. It was led by Christopher L. Taylor from the NAACP, and its purpose was to present peaceful steps to speed up the integration of African Americans in their communities. Further info relayed in a memo included a mention of a 1960 raid of an unnamed millionaire listed as a notorious homosexual. Evidently, that millionaire required all his guests to sign a register when visiting his abode, and Burt's name appeared on that list. The CIA forwarded a letter to the FBI in 1962 that expressed concern that Burt Lancaster was among several Hollywood actors interested in making films with strong social commentary. It's further come to light that Lancaster was investigated by the FBI for his supposed affiliation with the Communist Party of America in the 1940s, his alleged homosexual behavior in the 50s, and for participating in the civil rights movement in the 60s. Burt was prone to violent outbursts on set. Although Burt Lancaster was seen as being one of the most prominent actors of his time, there were some deeply afraid of him. Author Norman Mailer, one of his close friends and regular bridge partner in the 60s, once admitted he never looked into more chilling eyes than those of Lancaster's. Famed gossip columnist Hedda Hopper used to call him terrible-tempered Burt. Elmer Bernstein, composer for The Sweet Smell of Success, once said that Burt was a very scary man to work with. He claimed the actor had a short fuse and could be very dangerous when his anger led him to get physical. And Sidney Pollack once described Burt as a very intimidating man, while director Alexander McKendrick echoed Bernstein's sentiments, calling him scary. On the set of the 1966 film The Professionals, Lancaster punched his co-star Jack Palance so hard during an argument that he made the Oscar award-winning actor throw up. When Lancaster worked with director Michael Winner on the set of Lawman in 1971, crew members frequently complained about his angry outbursts. On one occasion, Lancaster grabbed Winner and threatened to throw him off a mountain in Durango. Despite this horrific experience, Winner and Lancaster remained close friends for many years. Winner was even quoted as calling Lancaster a wonderful man before saying, "Who cares if he tried to kill me a couple times?" Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know that Burt Lancaster once made Kirk Douglas cry in front of a crowd of fans? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.